Let's take a couple of moments and we're going to walk through the initial and the system setup when the system is in standard mode on Pioneer's DEH-X6900BT. Even though your particular in-dash receiver may or may not have a CD slot across the top like this one, the on-screen and button operation is identical for the following Pioneer models: MVH-X580BS, DEH-X6800BS, DEH-X6900BT, DEH-X7800BHS, DEH-X8800BHS. So right now we're on the AM/FM radio source, but what I want to do is turn the system off. So I'm going to press and hold the source key for a couple of seconds. That'll switch the system off. Even though I still have the clock on the display screen, that's fine. Now press in on the volume control. And now we have our choice of the system and the initial menu. Let's go to the initial menu first, and we'll press enter here. The first thing we see is our rear speaker output. Now this system has 3 sets of RCA outputs, and they can be set up as front, rear, and subwoofer output, or high, mid, and low output. This system also has front and rear speaker outputs. This setting right here is for the speaker level outputs. It does not affect the RCA level outputs at all. So the rear speaker output right now is set to full range. If we want, we can choose to set the rear speaker output as a subwoofer output, and the system is capable of operating a small subwoofer on the rear speaker outputs. For right now, I want to keep my rear speaker output set to full range, and we'll roll over to the next setting, which is the system update. And occasionally a software update is made available by Pioneer on pioneerelectronics.com that you can download onto a USB thumb drive and insert right here to do a software update. So we'll press enter on the software update, and this will tell you the system information. We'll press enter here. This says we're on version 08.36. If the version number you see on your screen is lower than 08.36, there is at least one software update that you can do. So go to pioneerelectronics.com and download that software update for your particular receiver. We're going to go back here and roll over to the next setting, which is the software update. If you have a software update available, download it onto USB. You'll insert it into to the thumb drive right here and press enter to begin the software update. Now let's roll over here back to system info, and we'll go back and roll over to the next setting, which is system reset. If you ever want to take the system back to its factory settings, we can do the system reset right here. An example of this would be if you want to change your system from front, rear, and subwoofer output to high, mid, and low. You need to go to the system reset here and press enter and reset the system. And we'll we'll roll over to the next setting here, which takes us back around to our rear speaker output, full range, or subwoofer output. So now let's go back. Now let's roll over to the system menu. Here's system, and we'll press enter. The first thing we see here is clock set, and this is where we can set the clock for whatever time of day you want. And we'll go back, and the next setting is our clock format, 12 or 24 hours. You can press in on the volume control to change that. We'll roll over to the next setting, which is the beep tone. Occasionally when you press a button on the screen or use the radio station presets, you'll hear a beep tone. If you don't want to hear that beep tone at all, press in on the volume control here and you'll switch the beep tone off. For right now, I'm going to leave that on. That's a confirmation to me that the system got my command. We'll roll over to the next setting, which is our info display, which is the information you see on the screen right here. And if we roll over to the next setting, we also have the dot display available, which is the system across the top. So we have a number of different ways to display information on the screen here, both in info display and in dot display. Now we'll go back here and roll over to the next setting, which is auxiliary on. Right now, auxiliary is switched on. We can choose to switch it off, and here's the auxiliary input right here. And this means that when I press the source button, if I have auxiliary switched off, I won't see an auxiliary input option. If you like to use the auxiliary input, make sure you have it switched on. Now when you press the source key, you will see auxiliary as an option. We'll roll over to the next setting, which is Bluetooth audio. So if you like to stream music from your phone, you want to have Bluetooth audio switched on, because again, the same thing. When you press the source key, if you have Bluetooth audio switched off, you won't see Bluetooth audio in that source menu. You got to have Bluetooth audio switched on in order to see it in your source list. Let's roll over to the next setting, which is Spotify, and this is exactly the same thing. If you use Spotify streaming in from your phone on a regular basis, the in-dash receiver here has a full Spotify interface built right in. If you don't use Spotify, you can switch it off and not worry about it, but if you use Spotify as a source, you're going to want to keep that switched on. Let's roll over to the next setting, which is Bluetooth memory clear. Occasionally, you may want to just dump everything out of the Bluetooth system held inside the in-dash receiver. This is where you'll do that, and you can dump everything out of your Bluetooth memory and start over. We'll roll over to the next setting, which is our phone connection type. And if you want to run apps on your phone, including Pioneer's ARC app, the phone connection setting is really important to you. We'll press enter here, and we can connect either an iPhone or an Android type of a phone. And if we make that connection, we also have a wired or a Bluetooth connection to choose from. So we're going to go back here, and for right now, we're going to choose an Android phone, and we are going to choose the wired connection, and roll over to the next setting. And we'll roll over to the next setting here, which is our Android wired connection. We'll press enter there. And we have two settings here to choose from when we are using our Android phone wired through USB. We have a memory function that we can use to play back music that's stored on your Android device, or we have app control. So if you're using Pioneer's ARC app, it's very important. If you're using Pioneer's ARC app in a wired configuration, it's very important to have this set up as app control. Now we'll go back, roll over to the next setting, which is to automatically prompt the app to start when you plug it in. And again, if you're using an Android phone in a wired configuration, when you plug in the phone through USB, it can automatically start the ARC app. We'll roll over to the next setting, which is USB auto on. So this is the USB port here, and when I plug in something like a phone or a USB thumb drive, the system can automatically switch to the USB source and begin to play a track. And that's what we use on. But if you don't want that to happen, maybe you just want to plug in your phone to charge it, you can use USB auto and switch it off. You can always touch the source button and switch to the USB source whenever you want. Well, for right now, we'll leave USB auto switched on. And we'll roll over to the next setting, which takes us back around to our clock. So when you're done making your adjustments here, you can hit the band button to escape.